you. Just to give you some background information, on September 10th, 2020, Suffolk County Executive Steve Bellone announced the members of the task force and the initial community process of collaboration in compliance with Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 203, New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. The County Executive's Office, along with the newly created task force, was charged with soliciting input from individuals and organizations from across the county, as well as engage in a deep dive in reference to particular policing matters. All of this work contributes to the development of a plan that will first be presented to the Suffolk County Legislature, which we envision that will be in the March timeframe, and then to New York State by April 1st, 2021, pursuant to the governor's executive order. Our task force has 36 members, and they represent various levels of government, law enforcement entities, the police union, faith leaders, and community leaders. The framework for our task force discussions have been as follows. What functions should the police reform? Employing smart and effective policing standards and strategies, fostering community-oriented leadership and culture, and recruiting and supporting excellent personnel. All of the work that we are engaged in as task force members, we use the guidance document of New York State, which is entitled New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative, to frame all of the work that we're engaged in. Our task force activities to date, we have had 8 task force meetings where we have covered our introductory meeting where we just introduced task force members to each other, and we talked about our initial framework of how the task force meetings were going to take place and how our public comment portion of our work was going to take place. Our task force meeting 2 focused on internal affairs, officer accountability overview. Our task force meeting 3 focused on internal affairs part 2, discipline policy and procedures. Our task force meeting 4 focused on internal affairs, referrals, the IAB response team, external review of the Suffolk County Police Department Internal Affairs Bureau, access to disciplinary records, and the availability of IA reports. Task Force Meeting 5 was focused on traffic stop data, looking at our traffic stop data based on the report that we issued from the Finn Institute, also looking at the goals of the Suffolk County Police Department collection of data, and then talked about the development of a real-time dashboard for supervisors to review traffic data on a continual basis. And we also had a national expert join us, Frank Baumgartner from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, who has written the book, 20 Million Traffic Stops in the United States. Based on all of the work we've engaged in, we have been soliciting input from national experts on the national level as to best practices as it pertains to the particular areas of policing that we are looking to reform and reinvent. Our task force meeting 6 was focused on de-escalation, use of force training, de-escalation training, and firearms training. Our task force meeting 7 was focused on arrests and warrants, looking at total arrests by custody status. We also talked about community-based outreach and violence interruption initiatives, diversion programs, and search warrants. Our task force meeting 8 was focused on mental health response, looking at crisis intervention training, SCPD collaboration with mental health agencies, and just overall the 911 response and mental health response of the Suffolk County Police Department. So we are now engaged in subcommittee work. We are pulling together all of the information that has come from all of our public listening sessions, from our stakeholder meetings, and from our task force meetings to dive deeper into the subject areas. Our subcommittee work is going to be focused on mental health response, traffic stops, police systems accountability / body cameras, training, staffing of our community policing, and arrests and warrants. In addition to the process of our task force meetings with our task force members and our public listening sessions, of which many of you have been a part of, we also have an opportunity to meet with stakeholder organizations. And those stakeholder organizations are organizations that have been recently created or have been around for some time that have always been engaged in looking at police interactions, police collaborations, improving police relationships. So we've had additional meeting with stakeholder organizations, and those stakeholder organizations include the Suffolk County African American Advisory Board, the Suffolk County Hispanic Advisory Board, Assemblyman Phil Ramos, Access Church, Pastor Anthony Palella, Minority Millennials, the Suffolk County Guardians, which is a fraternal order under the Suffolk County Police Department, particularly African American police officers, LI United to Transform Policing and Community Safety, the Human Rights Commission, their subcommittee, Administration of Justice Committee, the Long Island Advocates for Police Reform and Accountability, the New York Social Action Committee, and an upcoming meeting for United in Justice, as well as an additional meeting with the Suffolk County Guardians. We have some additional meetings that are set for January, and we will continue to reach out to our stakeholder organizations. And in these meetings that we have with them, we discuss the research that they've been engaged in, we discuss resources, we discuss all of the components of the work that they have been engaged in. We also created a Suffolk County website, and that website is available for the public to see. So many of you signed up for this public listening session using the website that we created. The website indicates our task force members. It also indicates data, statistics, policies and procedures of the Suffolk County Police Department. It also has all of our public listening sessions, as well as videos of the public listening sessions that have taken place. So you can familiarize yourself with information as it pertains to the Suffolk County Police Department, and also see some of the common themes and threads that have been discussed in our previous public listening sessions. Our task force has discussed a myriad of issues, and hence that's why we are engaged in now the work of the subcommittees and making sure that we have called together and pulled together all of the recommendations and suggestions from task force members, from the stakeholder organizations, and from the public. So I still encourage all of you to take the opportunity to review our task force website. And because even though this is our last public listening session, that does not mean that you cannot continue to communicate and provide information to the task force. So I encourage everyone to use public.input@suffolkcountyny.gov. That is on the screen now, public.input@suffolkcountyny.gov. And that is an opportunity for you to be able to communicate with us anything that you have not shared via the public listening sessions. So once again, thank you all this evening for joining. I'm going to turn it over to our police commissioner, Commissioner Hart, for some welcoming comments.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Vanessa. Thank you to everybody who has participated in these listening sessions. We are on our 8th and final of this process, but it has been a tremendous experience for us as leaders in this department to hear from you. I know that some of these stories have been difficult to convey, and I appreciate you're doing that for us. And I want to commit to you that this is a forum that I would like to continue past the executive order as a police department, to really just be out there to listen to our constituents, our community members, and make this department, continue to make it the most equitable and fair that it could be. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank
you. Deputy Police Commissioner Risco Minchin-Lewis.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see so many people on the call to this evening. It's important that we not only do the East West, but also out East, right? And so we're glad to have you on the call. Just like to ask all of you to be cognizant of being respectful to one another as you're not only as you speak, but also in the chat. Have a, you want to make comments is perfectly fine, but making personal comments are just childish. And,
Deputy Police Commissioner, can I stop you 1 second? You're going in and out.
Oh, I am?
Yes.
Is that better?
That is much better. Thank you.
Okay. So as I was saying, it's very important that that we're respectful of each other, not only as we speak, but also on the chats. There's certainly no reason to be disrespectful or make personal attacks upon people. If you need to make personal attacks, maybe you should text that to a friend, because this is not the forum for that. But regardless, I look forward to listening to we look forward to listening to your comments and applying it as we go through the task force. So we thank you for your time this evening and look forward to learning, getting more input from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hart and DPC Lewis are members of our task force, hence the reason why I asked them to introduce themselves. In addition, we have other representatives from the police department on the call. So at this time, I will ask Chief Cameron to introduce himself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stuart Cameron. I'm the Chief of the Suffolk County Police Department. I'm very happy to be here with you tonight. I would like to hear your opinions. Para cualquier gente en la llamada que solo habla español, me llamo Stuart Cameron y soy el jefe del Departamento de Policía del Condado de Suffolk. Estoy muy contento de estar aquí esta noche con ustedes. Me gustaría escuchar sus opiniones esta noche. Gracias por su implicación.
Thank you, Chief. Deputy Police Commissioner James Scopik.
Good evening, all. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate and listen. This is the last session that we do have, but like Vanessa had said, please continue. If you have correspondence that you would like to forward to us through the police department, please let us know that. Not a problem. I always look forward to listening to what the input is from everyone out there. It's very interesting and educational, and we'll move things to a good, hopefully to a good 2021. I wish you all a happy and safe holiday season moving forward. So thank you very much. Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you. And while not a member of the task force, we know that we have Chief Hagermiller on from Riverhead. Chief Hagermiller, would you like to introduce yourself? Maybe he is not on yet, or maybe having some issues.
There we go.
Oh, very good.
Am I on now?
You sure are.
Very good. It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me. And I look forward to listening to what everyone has to say.
Thank you very much. In addition, we have, as these are task force public listening sessions, it's important to ensure that we have our task force representatives on the line. So I'm going to say their name. They're going to just give a brief introduction. Legislator Jason Richburg.
Hi, Vanessa, and thank you to everyone who's come today. I look forward to hearing your suggestions, your input, your experiences, but more importantly, just to see your investment in this process. And I think that's how this process moves forward. But I would be remiss if I didn't say, stay safe, stay home, and wear a mask. Thank you very much.
I serve as a co-facilitator of this task force as a deputy county executive, and I have my other co-facilitator with us this evening, Deputy County Executive John King.
Good evening, everybody. Vanessa, we look forward to hearing what everyone has to say. We really do take this very seriously, and the comments that we hear are poured through by everyone on the staff, the county executive, and other officials are apprised of all that's going on, and so it really does make a difference. So thank you, and I do thank the chiefs and the town supervisors from the East End towns for working with us. I know we have Hagermiller from Riverhead, I believe.
Yes.
And thank you. But I also spoke to Chief Stronecki from Southampton, as well as the supervisors. So any of the others as well, they've been engaged with us. So thank them. We thank them for participating as well. So thanks.
Thank you. From the District Attorney's Office, Leslie Anderson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Leslie Anderson. I'm a Deputy Bureau Chief serving on the District Attorney's executive staff. I'm on with my colleague Kellyanne Soto, who's our Director of Intergovernmental Relations. Please rest assured that the DA's office is a full partner in this reform act, in this reform effort, and the DA is fully cognizant of everything that's going on with the group. So we look forward to hearing from you this evening.
Thank you. Sharon Weber.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharon Weber. I'm a criminal defense attorney with 27 years of experience representing indigent clients and the minority community. I'm also a member of Amistad, the Black Bar Association on Long Island, and I look forward to hearing everything that you have to say.
Thank you. Linda Perdomo-Ayala.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Linda Perdomo-Ayala. I am the chair of the Suffolk County Human Rights Commission. Looking forward to hearing everyone's comments tonight. Thank you.
Dan Lloyd.
Thank you, Vanessa. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Lloyd. I'm the founder and president of Minority Millennials, and I'm very interested to hearing everyone's conversation and thoughts tonight. Thank you.
Pilar Moya.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pilar Moya Mencera. I'm the Executive Director of Housing Help. Thank you all for giving up of your dinner time to be with us, and we're really looking forward to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the introductions of our task force members. And as we said, this is a listening session. So just to ensure there is not a Q&A that will go back and forth, you'll be provided 3 minutes of time for your public comment. Christian Macario, if you pin his screen, as he indicated before, he will have the timer on as 1 minute is approaching, so you'll know the time that you'll have left remaining for your public comment. We're not trying to cut anyone off, but we also want to ensure that everybody has the opportunity to speak. So please be mindful of the time frame that's associated with your public comment. If you have additional information that you cannot express during those 3 minutes, please feel free to provide that information to public.input@suffolkcountyny.gov. We're more than happy to, and we cull through all of the communications that we see there as well and ensure that information is part of our subcommittee work. In addition, I will underscore what Deputy Police Commissioner Risco Lewis stated. Let's be respectful of each other. We are on this call and we are engaged in this work because we want to ensure that there's fair, equitable, and just policing within Suffolk County. So therefore, what we're asking of the police department, we need to embody ourselves. So please be as respectful as you possibly can. Other than that, I think that covers pretty much our housekeeping rules, and we look forward to hearing everything that you have to share with us this evening. So we are going to get started. I'm going to list and first call out your speaker number. If you do not respond with your speaker number, then I will add your last name. And then if there is a speaker who is not available at the time, we will go through all of the speakers, and then I go back once again through for those speakers who may not have been on a call, but giving them the opportunity to be able to share their comments. Once again, we thank you all. We look forward to hearing what you have to say, and we turn it over to speaker number 1. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Gauri Shamnath. I am a senior currently at New Hyde Park Memorial High School. And even though this is collectively our final listening session, this is my first. So I am just very eager and excited to hear everyone else's thoughts as they secede from what I have to say, and to be able to get into the conversation. Issue that came up to me that was super important and that struck a chord with me is mental health. I'm a first-generation Indian American, and in India, and as I am connected to my roots, mental health is seen as something that is more or less neglected in a major light as a result of stigma and the failure to accept that emotions are not equivalent to failure, and that they are not a sign of deconstruction or a sign to or something to hide, and that many individuals do not know how to make a conscientious effort in regards to self-care and identifying an appropriate outlet respectively in respects to their particular issue or their particular struggle in order to delve into these issues in a specific manner. So as I was doing my research for tonight, again, I was super eager. The programs, crisis intervention training programs that came across to me came about with numerous benefits. Police officers, as I would suggest, should be able to give more tools to handle their jobs safely and effectively, and it can be done so through crisis intervention training. As we all know, with the Black Lives Matter movement and a surge of even my own generation beginning to be more aware of these issues and beginning to advocate on social media, even with the misconducts of misinformation, the intention is definitely there. And even though that it's difficult to estimate exactly how much diversion programs can save communities, it is definitely worthwhile to have crisis intervention training as a plausible and a solution that is able to be implemented so that a collective society that is affected could definitely feel more comfortable in regards to needing to receive specific outlets for their struggle and not feeling as though they have to hide or conceal or try to transform whatever they're feeling into something that is more comfortable. In my experiences, I have struggled a lot, again, because of my past and because of how I've grown up, to actualize what it means for self-care. And I think that if that can translate to a way to protect our communities and to protect individuals that struggle with mental health, it would definitely be worthwhile. And I would love to see how the task force handles that. But crisis intervention training is, I believe, the best way to go about.
Thank you very much, Speaker 1. Speaker 2, please unmute yourself. Speaker 2, last name street.
Yes, hello, my name is Larry.
We can't hear you.
Okay,
Now I hear you.
okay. I'm the Eastern Long Island branch NAACP president, and my concern is I see that a lot of the town municipalities are using surveys for input from the community, and I think my concern is how, in terms of the outreach in the Black community, a lot of us don't have access to computers and things like that to do these surveys, and I was just wondering what other ways, what other vehicles would you use to reach the Black community in terms of their input into these surveys, or just police reform in general? Because for me, if they don't, it's not a fair representation if they're not able to do those surveys, and it's sort of like defeating the purpose. I was just wondering, are there any other vehicles that you use, any kind of outreach to get to the Black community in terms of input into police reform?
Thank you. As you know, this is a listening session, so there is not a Q&A. But if you stay on to the end, perhaps we'll be able to address.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 3, please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Elena. I use she and they pronouns, and I'm a member of Long Island United's Data and Research Work Group, and also the co-chair of the new Art Activism Work Group. I've attended the past few listening sessions, and this is my first time speaking. I'd like to highlight a few of Long Island United's recommendations for reimagining community safety on Long Island. Number 1, the development of an independent civilian complaint review board. Currently, the police are the ones who investigate the police, which we find problematic. The instating of a civilian review board will build trust, transparency, and confidence between the police and community. Investigative, subpoena, and disciplinary power gives the community a chance to have full oversight and accountability of the police. Number 2, we recommend a framework for continued community-based police reinvention. It is not acceptable for this process to end in April 2021. It is important that this is an ongoing process, so there's more communication between the community and law enforcement. This way, members of the community have a voice in shaping public safety. I wanted to highlight this, especially as this is the last task force listening session. This should absolutely not be the last time that community voices are heard on this issue. And open, candid dialogue is necessary to effecting change and building trust. So often at these listening sessions, I've heard members of our community, the Long Island community, speak out about their experience with the police, mental health, substance use, homelessness, and other issues that require attention, care, and support, both structural, political, and financial. How will this task force work to ensure that these voices are heard during this process and afterwards, continuously into the future? How will these community members be integrated into positions where they can affect real change themselves, actionable change? For example, including members of the community who have been directly impacted by these issues, policing, mental health, etc., on future task forces. Number 3, we recommend that deployment strategies, policies, procedures, practices, and data be posted online for the public to see. This will increase public confidence that things are being done properly. And it's especially of interest to me as a member of the Data and Research Group of Long Island United. We're often really hard pressed to find data on Suffolk County's policing and records and strategies. And it's a bit of a nightmare with evasion, redirection, and it often leads to nowhere. I'd just like to end by saying that this is not the first time we've all met. About a week or two ago, sort of by accident, I ended up in a Zoom meeting representing the Data and Research Group. I arrived with questions when you were expecting answers, and I think someone completely different to me, possibly, which is no one's fault because miscommunications happen. So the meeting was stopped and Vanessa said, "I'm sorry for wasting everyone's time," and I'm assuming including me in that statement. I just want to say that I'm new to this work, to this issue. I'm aware that I can only offer so much insight and wisdom, and I'm happy to listen and learn and be supportive in small ways. But that said, to me, no time or energy spent on the issue of community safety is wasted. No voice is unimportant, no question too small to matter. There's no greater act of care in a community than showing up and working to make it better and safer through accountability and action. And I look forward to spending my time in the future to be part of that change. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker 3. Speaker 4, please.
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. All right, hello everybody. My name is Antonio Cruz. My pronouns are he, they. And over the last few weeks, this task force has been a space where community members can voice their concerns related to policing on Long Island. It's to my knowledge that District Attorney Tim Sini, North County Executive Steve Bellone, and even some of the members of the Suffolk County Legislature themselves have not attended a single hearing. If we are to be committed to addressing over-policing on Long Island's Black and Brown communities, then we must enact policies pursuant to racial justice, economic justice, disability justice, and much more. Last hearing, members on this task force lauded the treatment of Black and Latinx folks by the SCPD, even suggesting that our officers are to be going to Ferguson, Missouri, where some of the earliest Black Lives Matter protests took place after the murder of Michael Brown. They did this despite data and personal testimony showing how anti-bias training doesn't translate into reducing police misconduct, as well as data showing how Black and Brown residents are disproportionately stopped and treated unfairly by SCPD. Commissioner Hart also mentioned in a previous hearing how the SRO program only holds SROs to a week's worth of training when handling students and commending it as long. This doesn't address police brutality. It doesn't address the school to prison pipeline. It doesn't address the continued use of stop and frisk policies. And it doesn't address the role of the police and prison industrial complexes here in Suffolk County. What truly eliminates racially motivated policing are actions like reducing bloated police budgets, ending pretextual stops, removing cops from schools, and reducing encounters between residents and police officers entirely. Our officers are some of the highest paid in the state of New York, and many of our elected officials have either personal or financial ties with the PBA. With factors like this in mind, defunding from police and reinvesting into after-school youth programs, job trainings, low-cost luxury affordable housing, food pantries, accessible healthcare, and accessible transportation are just some of the ways that we can reuse those funds more effectively. We can also invest in services like record expungement, community bail funds, and abolishing legal fees for folks here on the island. Black Lives Matter is not a photo opportunity. Attending PBA fundraisers, not attending task force meetings, passing anti-protest laws and lucrative police union contracts do not change the status quo at all. If Suffolk County wants to ensure its compliance with Executive Order 203 and its commitment to its residents, these sessions must amount in tangible changes in the way that we do things. As the previous speaker mentioned, things like the Civilian Complaint Review Board, extending this task force beyond April 2021, and deployment strategies and effective data be posted and easily accessible are just some of the ways that we can actually ensure change is not just rhetoric, but action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker 4. Speaker 5. Please unmute yourself. Speaker 5. Last name Krupski.
Thank you, Vanessa. I didn't know I had a number. I'm a Suffolk County legislator representing all of Southold, all of Riverhead, and Eastern Brookhaven down to from Manorville down to the Mauritius. And I'm just here tonight to listen. I do like a lot what Speaker 3 said that, you know, it's really about communication, and that's really critical that the community and government know each other and know what's important, because as a representative, I need to hear from people. So these kind of listening formats are critical, I think, on any issue, not just this issue. And thanks for this opportunity, and thank you, Commissioner Hart and Chief Cameron and Chief Hagemiller for being involved with this, because this is how, and for me, you know, as an elected official, this is how we learn. Thanks, Vanessa, and have a good night and a nice holiday.
Thank you very, very much, Legislator Krupski. Speaker number 6.
Hello. There we go. My name is Daniel McElroy. I go by he, him. Mi nombre es Daniel y mi pronombre es mi, es él. And I would like to, first of all, thank Vanessa for the organization. And I trust that all this information is getting back to the task force. And I want to echo something that Commissioner Hart said, that other speakers have said, that this should be an ongoing thing. And I want to ask sort of very specifically that there is a plan in place to have meetings, hopefully, I mean, the vaccine's here, that when these are in person, we also provide for folks who can't attend. Maybe it could be a blended version where there are people able to attend virtually for disability reasons, for work reasons, for any number of reasons. And that we need to hear from everyone to really introduce ideas continually. So I do thank Commissioner Hart for acknowledging that. And I think that that's the top priority. I think that come April 1st, that should be something that the legislature really heavily considers and needs to be put into place. So thank you for this. And I do look forward to these conversations continuing and expanding into many other areas of governance.
Thank you very much, Speaker 6. Speaker number 7, please unmute yourself.
All right. How you doing? It's James Freeman. I'm president of the Greater Garden Heights Civic Association. And I just wrote a couple notes down that I wanted to go through. When we first got started like 6 years ago, we didn't have any officers of color above the rank of sergeant. Now we actually do. And we actually have one that came out of the 6th precinct who was promoted to lieutenant. It was determined that the prior exam for Suffolk PD was biased, and that has changed. That change has actually occurred twice already in the exam being changed. The other thing is the recruitment. There wasn't any recruitment of officers of color within the prior to 6 years ago. That's actually changed. You actually see flyers with individuals of color on the flyers to where there's actual recruitment that's been done. We have a deputy commissioner that's been brought in, a person of color who's worked with recruitment, worked in communities as well. One of the other individuals asked about what can we do ongoing and how is their community outreach as far as them being able to do surveys and stuff. We do community meetings every second Tuesday, every single month in the various precincts that you're able to come out and discuss issues and things that go on. Community outreach things. COPE officers go to civic meetings. So if you attend a civic meeting, you can actually talk to an officer in your particular area at your civic meetings. The other thing is, as far as persons of color, as far as cops and things, there was a gentleman in 2 meetings ago who had discussed racism and bias and saying that he didn't know about racism and bias in Suffolk County. And I think he said there were like only 87 people that he knew of that may have been biased in the area. One of the things that I wanted to point out was that you have to look at a Hulu presentation documentary called Crime and Punishment. And it talks about 900,000 individuals of color that were stopped between 2007 and 2015. And out of the 900,000 stops, not one single conviction out of 900,000. So we have to look at, why are these individuals being stopped even out here? How can we engage with them on a better standing to be able to discuss the issues that are going on? But then also we have to change the language and how we view ourselves and how we discuss ourselves. 2 times the name minority or stigma minority has been put out there. I've asked presidents and other people, define as a person of color what's minor about us. There isn't any. So this meeting is also one of the things that is an outcome of the discussions that have gone on prior. So it's an advantage that has been provided to us. So I thank you all for participating, because this has grown exponentially, and I appreciate everyone's input and what's been going on. And ongoing, it'll be even bigger. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Speaker 7. Speaker 8, can you please unmute yourself? Speaker number 8, last name Ray, please unmute yourself.
Hey everybody, how's everyone going? I'm back again. This time I want to talk, first I want to thank all the chiefs of the East End. I had one of the biggest caravan events from Bayshore. I led, I organized out to Greenpoint this summer. And I want to thank the chiefs. I'm happy to be one of the organizers that's not anti-police. I haven't said that because my mom retired from the 2nd Precinct about 10 years ago. So I support the police as well as I support BLM. So I'm on both sides. However, I want to talk about diversity in Long Island when it comes to the police departments. I'm going to kind of go against the last speaker. Heading out to the caravan event, we was out in Greenpoint, we was out in the Hamptons, we did a lot of things over there. I did not see not one officer that was my skin color. I was concerned by that. And my take on it is, how can we expect change in Suffolk County if there's no officers that look like us? Yes, you're hiring a lieutenant that's black, that's a token black man. That does not cover for the other officers that's roaming the streets. I mean, we understand that as African Americans, we are raised differently than the Caucasian people. We listen to different music than the Caucasian people. Our behavior is different. Our build is different. So if you have someone coming from, I don't know, that lives in Sag Harbor, going to work in, I don't know, Riverhead or Gordon Heights, you know, they may be a little nervous working in that area, which causes them to be quick to pull the trigger. I see it all the time with, you know, there's a drug problem out here in Riverhead sometimes, out in Greenport. You know, I'm actually dealing with myself right now. One of my cousins was just drafted by the New York Knicks. So we bought 2 houses out in the Hamptons. This is like going on 2 weeks ago. Since we've been out there, right, we have the cops called on us 5 times. We're drug dealers. How did we get here? You know, and the cops just continue to come. They already know who I am, and they know who my cousin is. They don't do anything, but it's just stuff like that. And the cops that continue to come are white. So it's like, they don't understand, like, why are they being called? They have to come. One officer was very aggressive. He said, oh, let me come and see the house. Why do you need to see the house for? I mean, there wasn't no warrant issued. You just decided to come in. I'll have to come in and see everything's okay. It was a neighbor calling because we parked on our own property's grass. So we had a Lamborghini parked on the grass. The neighbor didn't like that we parked on the grass. Meanwhile, we're moving into the house. You know, this is the problem. You know, it's a lot of systemic racism going on in the East End, and I'm concerned. I'm worried. I'm scared. And, you know, we have some great people here. And I hope that Geraldine Hart can let people know that, you know, there are such thing as Black millionaires here in Long Island. You know, we got 3 top basketball players out that lives right here in Long Island, especially in the East End. So please, you know, just why can't we all just live in peace? That's all I want. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Speaker 8. Speaker 9, please unmute yourself.
Good evening. My name is Helen Boxwell, and I'm with United for Justice in Policing, she, hers. And I'd like to discuss hate crimes. Hate crimes is part of the Department of Justice agreement with the Suffolk County Police Department. And they have expanded the hate crimes unit, but there are lots of issues still going on. And I'd like to address the Department of Justice Technical Assistance Letter, which was issued in 2011. And it has quite a bit of discussion on hate crimes and how to classify them and how to organize them. And I'd like to request that be really read very carefully and followed. And I'm going to read from that so that you can understand what I'm talking about. First section, it says, Suffolk County Police Department Hate Crimes Unit has long misunderstood how to report hate crimes, and there is no indication that the problem has been fully rectified. A June 2004 letter from Mr. James Seymour, New York State Hate Crimes Reporting Coordinator to Suffolk County Police Department, illustrates that in the fairly recent past, they have not been correctly reporting hate crimes to New York State Department of Criminal Justice. And it states that some of your reported making graffiti incidents, comments noted anti-Jewish or anti-Black, symbols were drawn. If the officer had charged PL 145, criminal mischief, fourth, instead of or in addition to making graffiti, the incident would be considered a hate crime. Now, what's happening now is that when there is graffiti such as swastikas or a noose, they are classified as making graffiti, and that is not a crime. And what they said very clearly in this technical assistance letter is that if they're classified as aggravated harassment, it becomes a hate crime instead of just an incident. And not classifying them as a hate crime means that they're not really taken as seriously, and our statistics are not accurate, and our training for officers, including the hate crimes unit, is not correct, and we're not getting a picture of what's really going on in Suffolk County. Now, almost every month, there's at least one or more swastikas being etched, painted, or placed on all kinds of houses, cars, parks, fences, churches. And this is what another quote from this technical assistance letter. It says, on the Suffolk County Police Department had a hate crimes Q&A, and it asked, is painting drawing of a swastika on a public place an example of a hate crime? And the answer was only if it's specifically directed at an individual or individuals. This is the policy that's written down by the police department, and this is what they're practicing. But, yes.
You have exceeded your time.
I'm sorry. So
That's okay.
just please look at the technical assistance letter. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you'd like to send that to us and want to ensure that we have it, that's fine as well. So public.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. Speaker number 10, please unmute yourself. Speaker number 10, last name Fine, please unmute yourself. One more time, speaker number 10, last name Fine, please unmute yourself. Speaker number 11, please unmute yourself. Speaker number 11, last name. Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Keschner, and I've been an advocate for Long Island's low-income and immigrant communities for many years. I work for the Empire Justice Center, and I coordinate the Long Island Language Advocates Coalition. We work to ensure that people who may not speak, read, write, or understand English as their primary language are given equal access to all benefits and services, particularly those which are government funded, including the police. And over the past 10 years, we have been working closely to make sure that the police improve their services for Suffolk County's limited English proficient community members. We want to ensure that everybody is treated with respect, regardless of their language. Immigrants come in many colors, and we recognize that in addition to the discrimination faced by many of our African-American brothers and sisters, many immigrants also face the additional hardship of racial profiling, in addition to the subsequent danger of immigration enforcement. And while we have attended Suffolk County Police Department trainings, which have greatly improved over the years, there is still a troubling pattern within the department where, whether responding to traffic stops, domestic violence reports, or reports of missing children, some people's lives appear to be more greatly valued than others. People of color, including non-English speakers, are often at a disadvantage and are frequently further traumatized in their interactions with the police. In March 2018, we conducted a language access testing of the department and found that only 24.2% of the callers were provided with assistance in their language. When individuals called in a language other than English, some were hung up on, others were subjected to inappropriate comments, and in other cases, the officers simply did not know how to connect them with the language line. Last week, domestic violence advocates and language access advocates met with some members of the Suffolk County Police Department to let them know of some of our concerns. I don't know if I'll have time to go through the list, but I just want to let you know some of the ongoing problems. Consistently, people complained about the fact that complainants often are not provided with an incident report, regardless of their language. We encourage the department to issue a directive reading incident reports back to individuals from top to bottom in their preferred language. Failure to do so may result in denial of orders of protection, U visas, T visas, and result in improper convictions. If an individual requests an interpreter, they should be provided with one. It should not be up to the officer to determine whether or not the person speaks enough English. This includes assisting non-English speaking parents or guardians of minors. The officer must not defer to the person who speaks better English. The other party could be the abuser or abusive landlord or someone else who's not providing the full facts and who is giving an inaccurate version of the story. Children must never be used as interpreters. We know this is in the department's policy, but it's still happening. And a number of the advocates in these domestic violence situations say that kids are still being put in a very inappropriate role as interpreters. All department personnel. Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't know if you could see the time.
No, I can't.
You have exceeded your time, so please feel free. That's okay. The additional information that you want to send, please send to public.input, or you can email.
Okay, we just ask that everybody's lives be valued equally, and we look forward to seeing some significant changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 12.
Hi. My name is Peter Nidek. He, him, his. I'm from the Suffolk County DSA. I just want to talk about a situation that I had happen to me last year. I'm in the 3rd district precinct, in Bayshore. I've lived in Bayshore all my life. On July 10th, 2019, I walked into a store and I was harassed and assaulted in this store by a gentleman that was yelling and screaming. He was yelling and screaming at other people that were there. The police were called. I did actually call the police. They were aware of the situation. And about 10 seconds after I got off the phone line with 911, the police showed up. There was about 4 cops there, 3 vehicles in total. He was allowed to walk around and do stuff, even though one of the officers came back in, and I walked back into the store, Bagel Boss, with her, and I asked her, like, you want to take my statement? And she kind of like, oh, okay, but she didn't write anything down. I told her that he was harassing me and harassing a couple of the other people, and he bumped into me with his belly, and there was she did not write any of this down. I later found out that the gentleman was there actually 2 or 3 times before that. I don't know why nothing was done about that. But also it was shown later on that there was, he also stole an egg sandwich, and he was allowed to walk outside around his car, and he was not arrested. He was just told to basically get out of there, and I think that the owners told him not to return. I bring this all up because it seems like for at least people should be able to trust enough in the police, and the police should be able to do enough job to actually take down a statement, especially someone that is willing to give the information that they might need, because there could be a crime that could have occurred. I do appreciate that the police came down very quickly, but I was just very disappointed. It's a point of contention with me that nothing was done about this. My name is Peter Nidek. I just want to say thank you guys very much for your time. I know my time's running out. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Speaker 12. And thank you for sharing the story. Speaker 13, please unmute yourself. Speaker 13, last name Levin, please unmute yourself. Speaker 13. Okay, we will come back. Speaker 14, please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Florence Rothman. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm a member of Long Island United, working on alternative responses to 911 mental illness calls. But tonight, I don't want to talk about our specific plans. I want to discuss two overarching suggestions that are important to the success of any and all reforms you decide to recommend. The two issues are data collection and a civilian oversight board. The first issue is the careful and complete collection of police data. It must be public and easily available. Our workshops could not find data that should be readily available. This is necessary for oversight going forward. How will we know if any of our reforms are working if we don't have any data on them? Secondly, moving forward, we need to protect the reforms that we get instituted by having a civilian oversight board and perhaps an ombudsman person. This is the only way to ensure that the new programs are working. We are all here to work together. The task force, the legislature, the police, and the public should not be adversaries. We should and we can be partners for social change. These are small d democratic values that America stands for: equality and justice. When I say we need a civilian oversight board to protect the goals of reforming the police, we have to remember that this task force was convened to reform the police by our governor, and that this was the direct result of the Black Lives Matter movement demanding action for police reform in response to George Floyd's murder and other murders. We are grateful for their leadership, but all good people and all good people of goodwill will want these reforms. We are all colors, all ages, all religions, all political parties, I hope, all orientations, and so all socioeconomic groups. We want to end systematic structural racism in our country, and you have been convened to do it. What a challenge, but you can do it. We are here to work with you to make this happen. We are supporting you, we are watching you, we are praying for you, and for those of you in elected office, we will vote for or against you depending on how you respond to this challenge. Thank you, and I hope you will consider the collection of data and a civilian oversight board as you go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Speaker 14. Speaker 15, please unmute yourself. Speaker 15, last name Banks, please unmute yourself. One more time, Speaker 15, last name Banks, please unmute yourself. Speaker 16, please unmute yourself. Speaker 16, last name Prensa.
I'm sorry, I was stuck. I'm 15.
Okay.
All right, but I was stuck. My computer wasn't responding.
No problem.
All right. Just very quickly, I wanted to say that, you know, having attended a few of these sessions, I've heard so much information that was really very, very valuable and valid in my experience working with so many different organizations here in Suffolk County. There's one thing that I think that we are still going to be suffering with, in my opinion, as far as police responsiveness is, and that is articulation between the various departments. You know, there's so many different police departments and village departments here in Suffolk County that it makes it difficult for a person who lives here to be able to know what policies or philosophies the officers are going to be operating with as they travel the island. You could go 7 blocks and be dealing with an officer who has comes from a whole different police department with a different ideological premise in terms of how they practice. So that's one real important issue that I think somehow there needs to be collaboration and coordination. I'm happy to hear that Chief Hagamiller is on, and I know that I also speak with Chief Skrzynecki out in Southampton. However, I think, there's so many others as well that need to be a part of this conversation. And somehow I think Suffolk County Police Department, too bad they don't have jurisdiction over those departments, has to be in total conversations with them to make sure that the policies and practices that we, particularly us, people of color, are going to have to deal with as we travel Long Island. And that's real important to us all. The other thing that I think is really important is as we talk about reimagining, people have said things about civilian review boards. And I've had conversations regarding that, and having attended a prior meeting, it was responded to. And I think that it was responded, and we were told that they haven't been as successful and don't really accomplish what it is that they are supposed to accomplish. And I get that. And that, in my opinion, always has an issue with it if we don't try to reimagine them as well. My opinion is if the ones that have been in operation have not worked, then why can't we refurbish them or reimagine their practices and come up with one that helps? Because I believe that civilian review boards do assist police departments in dealing with public image and public collaboration. I'm complete.
Thank you very much, Speaker 15. And if you had any additional comments, please feel free to provide those. Speaker number 16, are you on the line now? Speaker number 16, last name Prensa. Speaker 16, last name Prensa. Speaker number 17, please unmute yourself. Speaker 17, last name Giglio. Please unmute yourself. Speaker number 18, last name North. Speaker number 18, please unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay. My name is Chris North. I'm a member of the South Old Town Anti-Bias Task Force of South Old Town. As a member of the South Old Town Anti-Bias Task Force, we are looking to collaborate with the Suffolk County Hate Crimes Unit in regards to reporting issues, regards to political signs, hate crimes, swastikas. We are looking to have more collaborations and communications with the Suffolk County Police Department, because we understand that, yes, the East End has its own jurisdiction with our South Old Town Police Department, but we would like to collaborate on certain issues and concerns that we have with the Hate Crimes Unit. I will, if you would like to reach out to me, reach out to my email. I will go any further with details with that issue. That's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you. Speaker number 18, and please feel free to email public.input@suffolkcountyny.gov with the suggestion that you have, and then we can respond. Thank you. Speaker number 19, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, Mike Simonelli, Suffolk PBA member, military veteran. During the past few weeks, I've cited numerous studies and statistics disproving claims of racially biased policing, showing how very restrained police officers are in using lethal force. Today, I'll discuss two personal encounters, which, like most police incidents, the press didn't report on and the public was clueless about. During my first year on patrol in Central Islip, a man pulled up to my car, police car, telling me there was a fight by the gas station. So I immediately drove over to it, and indeed there were two guys going at it. I exited the car, took my baton out, and was walking up to break them up when they separated, and I saw the black male, I'll call him JB, had a knife in his right hand, having just stabbed the Latino male in the chest. I dropped the baton, drew my gun, pointed it at JB, and I told him to drop the knife or he would be shot. He was 6 feet from the other male, about 15 feet from myself, so if he made the slightest motion to stab either of us, I was gonna shoot him. Fortunately, he dropped the knife, got on the ground as ordered, and was arrested without incident, and the other male was taken to the hospital. Every story can end like that if the subjects did like JB and complied with the lawful orders of the police. Years later, while patrolling Brentwood, a 911 call came over of a black male threatening his girlfriend with a gun. Within 3 minutes, I pulled up and saw a black youth, about 11 years old, on the grass in front of the house. He waved me over and was clearly frightened as he told me his sister's boyfriend pointed a gun at her. When I asked him to describe it, he told me it was a silver metal revolver. I knew it was a legitimate gun call and his sister's life was in danger. So when 2 other units pulled up, I quickly briefed them and 3 of us went quietly through the front door. Walking through the fatal funnel of that front hallway is known was the most scared I've ever been as a cop. At any moment, we could be looking down the barrel of a gun popping out from behind one of the many doorways ahead of us. As we got to the bedrooms at the rear of the house, I yelled for the man to come out with his hands up. I told him we knew he was armed, so if we didn't see his empty hands held high, we would shoot him. Fortunately, he complied with our lawful orders and came out as directed. So he was arrested without incident, and a loaded .357 was found in the room he came out of. This was his 3rd gun arrest, so it's obvious where our criminal justice system is broken, and it's not with the police. Incidents like these happen every day without any press, medals, or fanfare. Every day, police risk their lives to protect the lives of black, brown, yellow, and white people from the predators among them. Yet radical anti-police groups claim the police prey upon innocent blacks and call us racist. Justice Cheryl Keshner described my statistics in the chat. The irony is the anti-police groups in these sessions for weeks have been rallying behind a black man claiming to be a victim of the police, but who in reality, besides starting a riot in Brentwood where a cop's nose was broken, has done something over 99% of police officers never have. He killed a person of color. Back in the 90s, he was convicted of manslaughter and serves hard time, illustrating how blinded by race and blind to real predators those calling for police reforms are. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker 19. Speaker number 20.
Hi, my name is Lynn Kaufman. I guess it's pretty fitting that I come next because I've come every week and I wanted to talk to the task force tonight because I'm very concerned that nothing is going to come of all of these listening sessions. Even with all of the personal stories and statistics, not one police person has been on here and said, we have problems and we have to do something. Not one. So to the task force, we can be a county that acknowledges our problems and deals with them, or we can be a county that makes excuses for the way that we treat Black and Latino people in this county. We can deal with our bias, or we continue to have bias in policing. We can lead, or we can do nothing. In Virginia right now, there's legislation on the governor's desk to get rid of most pretextual stops, because that is where most of the bias in police traffic stops takes place. Similar legislation has already passed in Philadelphia, and it's being presented in Texas. And I know, as you could tell from the last caller, the biggest pushback we're going to get is from the police, not the last caller, the last person on the line. I'm very concerned that the police are going to tell us all the things that could go wrong if we change what we do. Well, could is a very different word than will, but we know what is going wrong, and it's the bias in policing that is affecting and harassing Black and Latino citizens in Suffolk County. So the police are strong. We all know that. To the legislatures, the fact of the matter is they give you money for your campaigns. And while you tell us that that doesn't affect you, they certainly wouldn't be giving you money if they didn't feel it did. The police are a powerful union. I'm sure there are many rules baked into their contracts that can be used to tell us why we can't make change. But Virginia had all of these obstacles to overcome, and they were able to do it. So you've got some choices here. You can do the right thing. You can change our procedures so that Black, brown, and white people are treated the same, because under the current system, they are not. Or you can do nothing. The police are going to come to you with all kinds of reasons to do nothing. And I say to you tonight, let them do reasons. How about we do what's right? You cannot deny the fact that bias in policing, especially in pretextual stops, is a real thing. You can end it, or you can say we're fine with it. That's what your actions are going to tell us. A couple of times back, somebody said, why don't we do the Pledge of Allegiance before we have these meetings? How can you possibly expect Black and brown people to put their hand on their hearts and talk about liberty and justice for all when the justice is so biased? So let's curtail the pre-tail stocks, at least as a start, so that there is justice in Suffolk County going forward. And just, Vanessa, 1 second, I just need to say, I really think everybody needs to publicly thank Vanessa. You have been so respectful during these listening sessions, nothing but professional. You have been fair to everyone, and I just think you've done a magnificent job. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Speaker 17 has indicated that she is here, so if Speaker 17 can unmute herself, that would be great.
Yes, hi, I'm here. So thank you. I want to thank you all for having this forum. I'm happy that our Chief of Police, David Hagermiller, is on the line. I am a councilwoman for the town of Riverhead for the last 11 years, and I am Assemblywoman-elect for New York State. I did start the Riverhead Path to Diversity in order to diversify the police departments and find out where the drop-off points are. I was working very closely with our chief, with young hip professionals, Sam Law, and with Rita Fernandez from Suffolk County Diversity. And we have a great group going forward. And I think that there could be a recommendation for an appeal board if someone is dropped off in the process through the investigative routes, so that we create more of a community in the police department than we have in our townships. So I want to wish you all a very happy holiday season and a happy, healthy new year, and know that I'll be watching and listening, and I'll be here to help in any way that I can.
Thank you very much, Speaker 17. Speaker 21, please unmute yourself.
Hello, how's my sound?
Sound is great.
Great. So the heading I submitted my remarks under is Reallocating Resources, PBA Power. My name is Jennifer Green, pronouns she, her. I'm a first-time speaker. I live in the 5th precinct, and I'm here not as part of any organization, though I commend the organizations and their members who have been providing important input. I've listened with much interest to all the previous sessions I could. I'm here to speak to the task force and our elected officials as one of your constituents. This summer, I read a quote I want to share with you from historian Jill Lepore's article in the New Yorker about policing. She wrote, "To say that many good and admirable people are police officers, dedicated and brave public servants, which is, of course, true, is to fail to address both the nature and scale of the crisis and the legacy of centuries of racial injustice." She's making the same individual versus system distinction that was lifted up by Speaker 5 in session 5, when that speaker asked rhetorically if the problem we're talking about is bad apples or a systemic problem requiring systemic transformation. By now, there's no question in my mind that it's the latter, even as I affirm that, yes, many good and admirable people are police officers. That's simply not the point. Another speaker referred to an online talk by sociologist Alex Vitale about policing versus other ways to produce public safety. He talks about building up alternatives that evidence shows will make us safer. If there are community-based anti-violence initiatives that have tremendously positive track records, why wouldn't we allocate resources to them? Why wouldn't we hire more community members to work with young people who are at high risk of being victims as well as perpetrators of violence? Let's increase community-based mental health services. And when a crisis does occur, non-police crisis units can respond. Why wouldn't we? I did look into Cahoots in Oregon, which gets about 20% of the calls to 911. Last year, out of about 24,000 calls that they got, they called for police backup for less than 1%. There is growing awareness and support for non-police response to 911 calls related to people experiencing homelessness, people who are suffering substance abuse problems, and increased funding for services to help people with these problems. Again, why wouldn't we? Well, this is why I gave my remarks the heading, Reallocating Resources, PBA Power, because the answer to the question, why wouldn't we, is that reallocating resources is a political issue, and not surprisingly, any talk of reallocation is opposed by the police union. But I've been very glad to see constituents from across the county working to build political will for much needed reallocation of resources, and you can count me among them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker 21. Speaker 22, please unmute yourself.
Yes, so hello, my name is Terrell Dozier, and I've spoken at most, if not all, of these listening sessions. And I just want to start by thanking all the people who came here today and over the course of the past couple of months to make their voices known about the reforms that they would like to see within the Suffolk Police Department. And I also want to thank the task force members who have made their way onto this forum week after week to hear the stories and the recommendations from their community members. I want to speak directly to the task force members. As you go back to your work groups and set out to develop the policing and reinvention plan, I believe many others on this call would ask that you do not allow the very real craziness and barriers of what has been 2020 to hamper the structural and systemic reform that can be embedded in this plan. And what do I mean by that? So I mean that we know that due to the pandemic, budgets are tight. We know this. We know that the PBA has a lot of power. We know that PBA contracts aren't up until I believe it's next 4 years, and that current contracts have to be abided by. We all know this. We understand this. No one is expecting this plan to be passed, which is to be passed by April 1st and then fully implemented on April 2nd. So I want to say, do not let the realities of the moment damper your vision of what can be done 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years from now. And all of those things need to be embedded in the plan. Some things can be done more immediately, revamping data systems or at least putting out monthly data reports, developing the right to know policies, and others will require more time, such as passing legislation to end pretextual stops. And some might even need years, such as developing a civilian agency to enforce routine traffic laws, or developing comprehensive infrastructure to bolster the county's ability to respond to mental health crises, drug abuse, and homelessness without any police presence. You might need to create a pilot. We might need to renegotiate responsibilities within officer contracts, but it has to be put into the plan. You set optimistic and realistic timelines and then put the structural vision in writing, because we couldn't reasonably get that done right now isn't truly an excuse. And I've reread the Executive Order 203 and the guidance that has accompanied it, and nowhere does it say that there has to be a specific timeline of implementation. So after you set that vision, then the collective Suffolk community can come and focus on what strong implementation looks like. And I'm just going to end by saying this. I want to thank you all for the work that you're doing. Vanessa, I'd like to echo Lynn's sentiments from earlier. You've done a great job monitoring these sessions. And to the task force, I say you're doing precious work. You're being asked to take a deep look at yourselves, the society that we've created, and then right the wrongs. It's what my mama has called God's work. And so I want to say thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker 22. Speaker 23, please unmute yourself. Speaker 23, last name Munifo. Speaker 23, last name Munifo or Munifo. Okay, Speaker 24, please unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Susan Steinman, and I'm 76 years old. I'm a grandmother of 6, and I've lived in Suffolk County for quite a while. I wanted to say a number of things. I wanted to say that looking at this from a macro point of view, rather than specific improvements, we're a society which over the last period of time has seen more Black males and females killed by police than all the people that I saw killed when I was in the South during the Civil Rights Movement. So we have a problem in this country. We have a problem because many of the individual police who have to be part of the solution are not willing to admit that they have a problem. Every policeman that I've heard speak as part of this group has almost robotically expressed anger at the young people who fought for change, has, you know, used epithets of radical and things like this to just, to totally smear them. And so they're not willing to be part of the solution. They want the status quo. So for any systemic changes to occur that will help any of this situation, those police that are willing to participate, and probably they wouldn't be permitted to because of the PBA, they're not, I'm sure there are police who think that there's a problem. All of us see the problem. We saw it on television. We see the violence. We see people shot because they had a candy bar or a phone or some other thing. There's a lot of fear on the part of the police. Part of the fear is because they don't know the Black community. I taught in Bedford-Stuyvesant. I'm a retired elementary school teacher. I taught there for almost 15 years. And I got to know the community, and I learned a lot more than I taught. And one of the things that I learned was the tremendous amount of violence and discrimination on the part of many police who looked at their job as being sort of a John Wayne occupying cavalry, policing a neighborhood which they were not a part of. We need more police of color in Suffolk County. We need not just a week-long anti-bias training, but we need an ongoing participation in discussion of racism and systemic bias on the part of the entire police department. And it needs to be ongoing. People have developed these attitudes all over their whole lives. I'm 76 and I've seen this my whole life around me. Well, many of these people have grown up their whole lives with these attitudes. They're not going to be changed in 1 week, okay? There needs to be de-escalation. There needs to be, I worked with Boys Town for a while, and they taught us to respond to anger, not with a loud voice, get on the ground, but with a soft voice. I had something called MANT training, where the first 5 levels of it were not violent. I dealt with mental patients and violent people without raising my voice. So if I can do it, police can do it too, but that isn't their training, and their training needs to be changed.
Thank you, Speaker 24. If we can go back through, there were a couple of people that were not on the line when we called their speaker numbers. So if we can go to speaker number 10, are they on the line now? Speaker number 10, last name Fine. Speaker number 10. Speaker number 13, last name Levin. Speaker number 13, last name Levin. Speaker number 16, last name Prensa. Speaker number 16, last name Prensa. Speaker number 23, last name Munifo. Speaker 23, last name Munifo. So since this is our last public listening session, and before we conclude, we would like to give the opportunity, if there is anyone else that is on the call, if you are interested in speaking, please indicate that in the chat, and we will call you based on your response in the chat. So because it is our public listening session number 8, while you have and will have additional opportunities to send us your comments, suggestions, recommendations, resources, research, we wanted to open up that opportunity to all of our members on the call today. So if there's anyone that would like to speak that does not have a registered speaker number, please indicate it in the chat and we will call on you now, and I'll give you about 2 minutes to do so. anyone else that is on the call, I believe we have about 67, 68 people that are on the call. If there's anyone else that would like to provide public comment, please take the opportunity to do so and indicate it in the chat now. You have 30 more seconds. Speaker number 4, you have your hand raised.
Yes, sorry. All right. I guess I really just kind of want to summarize a few things that a lot of folks have brought up: the necessity for CCRB, a Civilian Complaint Review Board, again, extending this task force beyond the April deadline, more accessible deployment strategies and data being posted and stuff like that. But I also want to really say that a lot of the organizations here on Long Island have been doing amazing work. Long Island United has been vital in organizing a lot of this. And as well as a lot of folks here in this task force have been really great at listening to a lot of us, but definitely making sure that a lot more of our elected officials themselves are present in a lot of these dealings would make it a lot more important. It would make it a lot more, it'd make it easier for us to hold them accountable to their responses as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Tracy Edwards.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, and thank you very much for acknowledging me and for doing all these calls. I will tell you that I am really very disheartened by the PBA representative's comments. The last meeting, this representative gave some inaccurate and incomplete information in a public forum, and he was sent a letter today to let him know that before you speak publicly and you provide incomplete and inaccurate information, you should check it out. So tonight, he has resorted to personal stories, which is fine, but only personal stories about African-American males, and using words like predators, and all they need to do is comply. We have a lot of work to do in this county. If we can have a representative of a union, which I do not think speak for all of the good people that wear that uniform, but if he is an official, and if he is speaking on behalf of the PBA, which he said he is, we have a lot of work to do in order to move forward. So I would ask that if the commissioner is on this call, is that we need to immediately have a meeting to figure out what can we do to ensure that we have representatives from the police department that are going to speak publicly and not disparage community members, speak with fact and not opinion, or speak as a resident and not as part of the police department. I am truly disheartened. And I think we need to meet as a task force sooner than later. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to have the opportunity to speak during this public listening session? Okay, so we thank you all for taking the opportunity out of your schedules this evening to join us as we engage in work of police reform and reinvention. It is not easy work. It is difficult work. It is work that's not going to necessarily, we're not all going to necessarily share the same ideologies or thought processes, but we have to listen to one another, because listening to one another, absorbing the information that people provide, that is a way that we get to a point of fair, equitable, and just policing within Suffolk County. I thank everybody on this call, particularly this evening, for being respectful of each other, particularly in the chat, that we were not disrespectful of others. We were not dismissive of people's thought processes. So that is much appreciated, and we say thank you. Just realize, just covering some of the things that have been spoken about this evening, our elected officials, in particular, County Executive Steve Malone has charged myself, Vanessa Baird Streeter, and John Kamen of leading this process of police reform and reinvention. That is our task and our job. We take the opportunity to update, allow the county executive, provide information to the county executive, share all of the public comments, share all of the information so that he's fully aware every step of the way as we are engaged in this process. So while some may be concerned that they're not necessarily on the phone and listening, the information is getting to them, but we are charged, we are the ones that are charged from the Suffolk County Executive's Office to lead this effort. Someone mentioned surveys and that many of the police departments are engaged in surveys. I cannot speak to, or we cannot speak to, what other police departments that have to engage in this work of police reform and reinvention under Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 203, what they are engaged in. But I will allow, and I'm going to defer for that part, I'll allow Deputy Police Commissioner Risco Menchen-Lewis to speak of the survey that the Suffolk County Police Department has currently underway. In reference to the community input, we are engaged in this process to hear from our community. So a particular speaker spoke about a waste of time. It was a waste of time for all involved, because we should have been better at communicating with you to let you know how this process unfolds and how we best can provide you the information that is needed. So please in no way take that as in, dismissive of the opportunity that you took. We are very glad that you took that opportunity, but it was unfortunate that we did not communicate in the best light as possible to ensure that the information that you were looking to seek, or us knowing that you were not presenting something to us, was not underscored and not addressed. So for that, we say thank you, and I know that you, or you will be sending over the request in reference to the information that you need. Someone mentioned cahoots and that they've done some investigation as it pertains to cahoots. We were fortunate enough to have cahoots as part of one of our task force meetings when we were talking about police response to 911 and mental illness calls. As I said, it's not necessarily about what we can do just right here and what we're going to create, but look at the models that work across the country, and look at the best practices from across the country and figure out how we could possibly implement those best practices here based on the framework that we have. All of you are so important and so crucial to this process, so we thank you. Many of you have been on every public listening session, and you've taken the time out of your schedules, and some of our public listening sessions have lasted 3.5 hours, and you've been committed. So we thank you for that. To our task force members who have been engaged in this work, we've engaged in hours, multiple, hundreds of hours engaged in understanding police policies and procedures, making sure that there was a foundational knowledge for all of our task force members. So when we get to the point of our subcommittees and we get to the point of delving even deeper and looking at possible considerations, suggestions, and recommendations, all of us are operating with a standardized understanding of and a foundational understanding of the police department. So to our task force members, and some of you have been on every public listening session as well as engaging other stakeholder organizations, we thank you. I think it's been said that, and the police commissioner spoke to it, that this process, while the plan is due April 1st to New York State, this process will continue as the opportunity to listen to the public. The police commissioner underscored that. Our task force members have been speaking of that. And so it's not just a plan that's going to be, shelved at some point in time. It is a plan that's a working document. So there's many speakers that have spoken about this in making sure that it doesn't necessarily, everything does not have to be implemented on day one. So we are going to need a process continuing and going forward. So for that, I say thank you to all of you. And at this time, I turn it over to our police commissioner, Geraldine Hart, for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Vanessa. And I also want to thank you for your leadership during these listening sessions. You've done a great job and you've pulled it all together. So thank you for all the work that you've done on this. I just want to speak to a couple of the comments that the speakers made. I want to thank, of course, speaker number one, who is a high school senior in Riverhead. Tremendous to hear from our young people, and I thank her. She talked specifically about CIT training, and we do implement that in the police department. And currently we have 153 of our patrol members who are CIT trained. So I just want to touch on that. Vanessa mentioned the surveys that we have sent out, and our deputy police commissioner will speak to that. Was a concern of speaker number two. A number of you spoke to the continuing process, that it needs to continue, and I agree with that 100%. This has been a tremendous opportunity for us as a department. I hope that you have seen, as the leaders of this department, that we value your opinion, your input, that we are here to listen. And I hope you've seen that throughout these 8 sessions, and that we intend not for this to be the final. It certainly will be the final for this reform process that's due to the legislature in March, but certainly not as a department. This is something that we need to do. I like the idea of perhaps a hybrid. Many times it's best to meet in person. I think a lot of connections are made that way, but we should also accommodate those who can't meet in person. So perhaps do a hybrid, as somebody suggested. Helen spoke about hate crimes. I just want to make it clear that she referenced a 2011 technical assistance letter. I also want to refer to the October of 2018 DOJ yearly assessment that found that hate crimes and hate incidences in Suffolk County, the way that they're addressed, was in substantial compliance, which is the highest ranking that they have. So while she referred to a letter from 11, it's important to note, and I refer all of you to the website where we have our DOJ annual reports listed, what the Department of Justice has worked with us on hate crimes and how it has come very, very far in a very short time. On that note, also, I wanted to talk about, I believe it was speaker number 18, and certainly want to coordinate with him. He talked about, I believe he's on the Southold Anti-Bias Task Force. Certainly want to make that connection so that our hate crimes unit can connect with you, speaker 18, and make sure that that happens. So we'll do that offline. There were just a couple of other things I wanted to touch on. Mr. Banks, you talked about, you wanted to make sure there's cooperation and coordination between the Suffolk County PD and our partner agencies out east. And I want to assure you that that does take place. There is a tremendous relationship in place now with all the chiefs out in the East End. And it's a continual dialogue that we have. We work together extensively in many areas, including hate crimes. But I want to thank all of our partners on the East End for their continued collaboration with us. And of course, lastly, I want to address Ms. Edwards and her statements. I am always happy to meet, directly with Tracy if that's appropriate. I'm happy to do that, or certainly as a task force. So I just want to make sure that you know that I'm open to that. And again, thank you all of you for everything that you've done to make us a better department.
Thank you, Police Commissioner. Deputy Police Commissioner Risco Lewis.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
So first, I'd like to say regarding the survey, we put a lot of time into the survey. Finn Institute is almost wrapping that up at the end of the month. And we should know the results in February. As for communities of color, there's 2 ways the surveys are going out and 2 ways the surveys can be responded to. One by computer, but also we're making phone calls to residents of Suffolk County. So if you don't get a letter in the mail where you can answer on the computer, you can also call in and give your opinion. So there's more than one way. We're also doing an oversampling of Black and brown communities, and we discern that by zip codes and by locations. So we're making sure that we actually get the voice of the communities of color. The other thing I want to address is one speaker said that the person who just became a lieutenant.
I'm sorry, please, you're going in and out again.
I'm sorry. Another speaker spoke about the officer became a lieutenant, and he said he was a token Black man. I would say to you it is wrong to disparage the hard work of taking tests, doing a good job every day, and saying he's a token. He's no more token than I am, being the only person of color in the command. It's not an easy job that he's doing. It's not an easy job I'm doing, and neither one of us is a token. It's an insult to us to even indicate that you think he's a token. He may be one, but he earned his space there, and it wasn't given to him. Other thing I'd like to say is, as for for the PBA's comments. As with Tracy, I am just too disappointed and disheartening. As a member of this leadership team, for people to allege there is no bias in policing is just an indication of being poorly educated. It's just that simple. It's also, difficult to hear as much work as we have been doing to educate the community. It doesn't take much to read the Finn Institute data, and there's plenty of other data available if they would like to engage in that, becoming knowledgeable of information. As for Speaker Rothman, thank you for your prayers because we need them. And the last thing I would say, another person indicated as a Black or brown person, how can we, as a Black or brown person, they said, how can we pledge allegiance to justice for all? The same way we can believe in the Constitution, because it is originally we were not considered in it. However, over time in court cases and hell-bent fights, we're achieving justice as Black and brown people. So we pledge allegiance to the hope and dream and possibilities. And that's what this task force is about. It's about achieving justice, equity, and achieving the dream of justice for all in America. And so I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Deputy Police Commissioner. And I also think too, the Deputy Police Commissioner was speaking about the Suffolk County Police Department surveys, the contact survey and the community survey that has been disseminated and is currently being disseminated by the Finn Institute. If there are surveys that are taking place on your municipal level as it pertains to your police department, you'll have to speak to your police department to find out how those surveys are being disseminated. But she provided to you the framework of how the Suffolk County PD surveys are being disseminated. So hopefully that is helpful information for the speaker that asked the question. I will turn it over now to my co-facilitator, John Kamen.
Thank you, Vanessa. And again, thank you everybody who participated. I think one of the challenges that we face is navigating the perspectives that are brought to bear. And on the one hand, I believe that people are coming forward and sharing a perspective that they have and that they know others have. And we need to reach out and take that opportunity for people who have showed up, no matter what they've said, they've showed up, point out where we disagree and bring people together. I believe from the union perspective, they're here. We need more conversation. I believe they're open to having that. I know that we are going to pursue that conversation. I appreciate Tracy's words to the extent that clearly there has to be greater sense of how people are impacted, even if some have a good experience, and even if individuals within the police force have their own experiences and perspective, there does need to be a sense of how others have experienced law enforcement in this county. And so we are looking to figure out how to create through a systemic institutional structure a vehicle to give everybody confidence that they are being treated fairly. And that's the county executive's approach. I know the district attorney is engaged as well, the legislators, those of us who work in the administration, and those of us on the task force. Our goal is to bring this all together and elevate the conversation and have an impact. And by being part of it, everybody's contributing to that end. So thank you.
Thank you. So to everyone that is on the call, thank you. For those that have joined us multiple public listening sessions, we thank you for the time and the commitment that you've made to this process. Continue to watch and look out for the task force website that will have additional information and upcoming information on it. We wish you all very happy, safe holidays. Thank you once again. Thank you for being part of this process. It does not end here, but we engage now in the deeper dive and the difficult work of coming up with the recommendations, suggestions, and ideas for consideration as we engage in police reform and reinvention within Suffolk County. Thank you all so much. Blessings to you and have a safe holiday.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.